I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Senator Jon Ossoff stressed the importance of border security during a Senate Homeland Security Committee hearing on Thursday. The Georgia senator stated it is essential that the U.S. is aware of who is entering and leaving the country at all times. Ossoff then asked if the Biden administration is prepared for the expected uptick in migrants if Title 42 is lifted. Listen in to see how the DHS witness responded.
The United States must know and control who enters and exits our territory. That's a basic condition of sovereignty. The department expects, does it not, a significant increase in attempted unauthorized entry along the southern border this summer?
Sir, the DHS Office of Immigration and Statistics has published projections that show an increase in irregular migration post-Title 42.
Is the administration prepared for this anticipated surge and attempted crossing?
Senator, thank you for that question. We have identified the needed requirements to meet the different levels of our planning assumptions, and we are actively working to both resource physical assets as well as policies and improvements to processing to meet those increased surges.
Thank you, Ms. Tierney. But my question is a simpler one. Is the administration prepared?
Well, sir, I think since some of these projections are higher than what CBP has seen previously, I think we are doing prudent planning. We are using the planning to identify the resource requirements that would be needed based on what experts like Chief Huffman and others identify as the need. We're working to improve policies. So I think we are readying ourselves, and we are going to be as ready as we can be come May 23rd.
Well, if you're not able to confidently state that the administration is prepared, what are the requirements that are unmet? Have you sent, for example, a request for a supplemental to Congress? If you're not prepared, what's it going to take to get prepared? Because my constituents lack confidence that sufficient preparation is ongoing and that the administration is prepared. So if you're not prepared, what do you need?
Well, sir, I would not say that we are not prepared. What I would say is that we are preparing based on projections, based on requirements identified by experts. We are resourcing against those requirements, and we will have the necessary items in place for May 23rd. Now, again, I have been doing that. I've been an emergency manager for quite some time. I never feel like we're prepared enough. I always want to be more prepared than we need to be. And so we are doing everything we can to be ready. We have been working furiously, really, since the fall of 2021 to get ready. We are more ready now than we were yesterday, and we will certainly be more ready on May 23rd than we are now.
Thank you, Ms. Tierney. How will you measure success?
So we have identified we have identified for each of our major agencies items that would indicate stability. So, like, for example, with Customs and Border Protection, the Southwest Border Coordination Center has identified a stability goal for Border Patrol that is having twice as much holding as we have encounters over a 48-hour period. So, for example, if if the Border Patrol is seeing about 6,000 to 7,000 encounters a day, which is what they're generally seeing right about now, then you would want to have about 13,000 to 14,000 holding spaces available. And I think that's an indicator of what the system can absorb and process through in about a 48-hour period.
Thank you, Ms. Tierney. My time is limited, but I'd like you to walk me through several of the other metrics or qualitative assessments that you'll use to measure success. You say you're preparing, so and I acknowledge that work is ongoing. How will you measure whether that preparation has been effective? You mentioned holding capacity relative to encounters. What are the other measures of success?
So time in custody would be another measure of success. Also, the ability to decompress Border Patrol stations through lateral movement and some of the other options that we have identified, like mobile in-route processing. Again, so, monitoring the capacity of the individual sectors, identifying sectors that are overcapacity, and then being able to flex to address that overcapacity.
Thank you, Ms. Tierney. Ms. Contreras, I want to discuss with you the welfare of unaccompanied minors in federal custody. First of all, has ORR mistreated or previously subjected minors in U.S. immigration detention to abusive conditions, to risk of abuse, to sexual misconduct? Has that occurred in U.S. custody?
Senator, thank you for that question. As background, I want you to know that during my first week on the job, I visited Fort Bliss. I wanted to see what the care was like for the children as you are speaking to, and I thank you for asking about it. What we saw is ORR, we have the responsibility at HHS for our legal and moral obligation, and that's always first about the safety of kids. We have had situations when we had to move very quickly to meet a greater capacity in a short amount of time where we needed to improve conditions. And that has been the focus over the last year. So that now what you see are a lot of emergency intake sites were, of course, now demobilized. But you see the care that's needed, mental health supports for kids, case management so they have access to someone, recreation, health, safety needs, those have all been the priority.
Ms. Contreras, and I do want to get into the steps that are being taken now, and I recognize that this GAO report refers to misconducts and incidents principally or even entirely prior to your tenure. I recognize that. But this is a HHS OIG report. It talks about inadequate supervision, sexual misconduct, the abuse of children in U.S. federal custody. It is completely unacceptable that this has taken place. And so I want to ask you two questions, Ms. Contreras, with my time remaining, and these will be my final questions. I thank you in advance for your responses. The first is, can you give this committee and the Congress and the American people and my constituents assurances that preparations have been made, safeguards are in place to ensure that minor children in U.S. immigration detention are never subjected to this abuse again? That's the first question. The second question is, what specific steps are you taking to ensure that, and will you grant the Red Cross unrestricted access to ORR facilities that house migrant children? I'll give you the time with the Chairman's indulgence to answer. That'll be my final question. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. On the question of access to the Red Cross, that's something that I would have to ask our team about, but I'd be happy to do that and get back to you. We welcome the oversight that comes from members of this committee, from our nonprofit partners, from the Flores Monitor. That's an important part of accountability and transparency as we carry out this very important mission.
I'm sorry, I know I said I was done, and the Chairman's gonna tap me out with the gavel soon, but I mean, I do have here, this is a Red Cross press release saying HHS and ORR and FEMA have requested that the Red Cross provide support to ensure unaccompanied children have safe, clean, comfortable conditions in detention. So you are seeking this from the Red Cross, is that correct? Will you grant them access to facilities even when you don't ask for it so they can inspect these facilities and ensure that children aren't being mistreated?
Senator, that is something that I will follow up with. I haven't seen the letter, but again, we welcome oversight and we certainly value our partners. I don't want to end without addressing your first question about what is the commitment. You absolutely have the commitment of the ORR staff, of HHS, and certainly myself. 1 month into my tenure as Assistant Secretary, I have represented many kids as their lawyer who have been abused in many ways. And while we always have that possibility of predators being in existence, what we are doing at HHS, we're the child welfare agency, is to make sure that we are taking every precaution, that we are staffed adequately so that there are eyes on our children, that we are using safeguards to make sure that we are keeping kids safe. So you have my absolute assurance that that is the #1 priority for us at HHS.
Thank you. Look forward to the follow-up on the Red Cross.
Thank you, Senator Ossoff. Senator Hawley, you're recognized for your questions.